Hello YouTube and welcome to another Throwback Thursday, and this time we have a Future War Commander battle report featuring the Androidans versus Gundams. So we started a new year of gaming. This was played beginning of January 2011, so more than a decade ago. And essentially I thought it an opportune moment to make a battle report about the first battle of that year. I sent a text to my longtime buddy, personal driver, arch nemesis, to hear if he wanted to participate, and when he said yes, I needed to find something special. Enter my beloved Gundams. It's about time they paid their air miles with a decent performance on the battlefield. So the scene was set for a 1500 points battle, me taking my list from the CAF open market list, the enemy drawing is Andreada forces, they're both in 6 mil by the way, being a part of a campaign back then, but that's not relevant, it took place somewhere in Africa. The table was a 48 by 48 inches, or 4 tiles of TSS terrain tiles, with various kinds of scenery we had at the club, so up to the army lists. Guy, my opponent, as in Guy Ritchie type of guy, and not that guy type of guy, had 1350 points at his disposal with his advanced tech and selected the CO and HQ to give the orders: 6 warrior units, 4 of the heavily armored vanguards, 2 scout recce warriors and 6 Voron walkers. A light orbital bombardment also stood at his command, so he was waiting for the opportune moment to strike with that one. My Gundams faced him off with a CO and an HQ, supported by 4 regular infantry, 2 Raider IFV vehicles, a Dragoon tank, which were all models from the Plasma Blast Progenitor range, a Desert Zaku, which uses the Khan rules, a Sniper Goof, a Warden, which were both 1/400 scale Bandai models, and then the stars of the lineup, the Endless Walls version of Heavy Arms and Sandrock, which were both 1/300 scale Bandai Gachafons. Heavy Arms was the Ogre from the CAF list, and for Sandrock, well, he would serve as an Emperor model. The Gundams lost the first roll to deploy, but took the win in the roll for who would have turn 1, sorry. My breakpoint was 7, 15 counting units as massive count for double, versus 6 for the Androidans, and so battle commenced. In turn 1, the Gundam CO took the first order for his account, moving the assault group of Sandrock, the IFVs and the infantry forward 1 time, and then blundering, causing not only the turn to end, but also to saddle him up with a -2 CV for the next turn, way to start the battle. The Androidans on their part started almost as bad, as the HQ failed to command the infantry, so they didn't advance, as would the CO as he tried to take over. Luckily the CO had already rolled a command bonus for the other part of the force as the robots advanced and took possession of some of the large buildings in front of them. In turn 2, the HQ of the Gundams then moves the heavy arms forward while the Desert Zaku opens fire, but without success against the vanguard in the building. The CO then orders some infantry in the buildings as well, but one of the regulars becomes suppressed by opportunity fire. Sandrock advances alone towards enemy lines, but then the CO blunders again and forces Sandrock to move towards the enemy lines. So, not too bad a blunder, because this would limit charge Sandrock in on the initiative next turn. The Androidan Recce boasts their commander CV value, but then it starts to go wrong big time, as the HQ manages to order one move before failing and the CO fails when trying to bring in the bombardment centered on Sandrock. This would become a serious running problem for the Androida in this battle, as you'll see later on, and we decided afterward that it was due to them still running on MS-DOS instead of Windows 7. Turn 3. There he is, enter Sandrock. Charging on initiative, the huge Gundam lunges into the vanguard of the building in front of him, unhindered by defensive fire, and flushes the elite warriors out and back to the next building. In the meantime, the Sniper Goof suppresses a warrior unit. Smart missiles crash against the Dragoon tank but fail to kill or even suppress the machine, and its return fire suppresses one of the Voron walkers, which would then be finished off by a volley of the heavy arms. 2 infantry stands of the Androidanas are then finished off by the Dragoon and heavy arms, as the HQ managed to keep giving orders before failing when it needed only a 4 on 2 die 6. The CO just pulls his flank a bit, including the Sandrock, to organize a line for the next strike. The Androida in return had a couple of units less to command due to suppression and casualties, and started with target painting the Sniper Goof. And that was it, as both the HQ and the CO botched their first order attempts. Going on to turn 4, I felt that I could make the Androidans reach their breakpoint, so I decided to let push come from the other side this round. My rusty enemies would be caught between 2 huge Gundams that would work their way towards each other, clearing a building at a time. Sandrock did nothing except powering his shield back up as the Goof becomes suppressed by opportunity fire from the vanguards. The Zaku was then destroyed by the smart missile fire from the Voran, but this took the weapon out of sight and heavy arms moved into line of sight to take out the war machine. The first volley suppressed it, the second finished it off, leaving the biggest threat to my shields, the unsavable smart missiles, a memory in the past. The Dragoon tank rolled forward a bit and suppressed, then finished a warrior unit. On the other flank, combined fire from the regular squads took out a vanguard unit, while an EFE managed to gun down a unit of scouts. The Andreanians were seriously starting to run out of units and, more importantly, out of CV value. But the robotic monstrosity had one more ace in their sleeve. The light orbital bombardment came through and smashed into the middle of the bunched up infantry in the center. Though it did suppress the Andreanan scouts nearby as well, it ravaged in the gun line, suppressing the HQ, a regular unit and an infantry fighting vehicle, and destroying the Zaku and another regular unit. Fortunately for the Andrians, they can't follow up on the success, as yet another command roll by the COEs failed, and their turn ends. In practice, and in hindsight, this was where the battle ended, as the Andrians had played their last hand and failed to capitulate on the success due to poor command rolls. But respect to my opponent, he wouldn't just yield yet, as unfallbackable infantry in hardcover is hard to shift, and me just refusing to hide behind buildings and let the huge machines do the job, but keeping up with peppering useless shots at the enemy in the flats. So, on to turn 5, in which both heavy arms and the Dragoon advance a little to draw near firing lines, and in doing so suppress the Andreanan scouts. Sandrock steadily advances back to a forward position in order to launch a new attack later on. The Andreanan turn was even shorter though. A vanguard unit managed to suppress an IFE on initiative fire, and that was it once again as the CO botches the roll. Like I said in the beginning, this would be a running problem for my opponent, who, if lucky, managed to give even a single order. I should have learned how he should use loaded dices on a 6. Nah, I'm not using loaded dice, by the way. Just joke. A short turn for me for turn 6, as I failed some command rolls for once very soon in ordering. A regular unit was killed by opportunity fire, while the Dragoon suppressed a warrior unit, and that was it for me. The Andreanans could make this a third turn, as I'm starting to near my breakpoint as well now, and unlike the metallic beast on the other side, I do need to test, and one flank would mean my force running off the battlefield. I just must see not to lose a single unit anymore now, which won't happen as the Andreada software isn't patched up in a long time. Though they managed to designate the Dragoon, not one shot even manages to hit, and then they fail a command roll again. I almost started to feel sorry for Guy. Almost. Die, Nemesis, die. Onto the 7th turn. The turn starts with Sandrock turning into the vanguards and kills them off by causing double or more hits. On the other flank, the Dragoon and heavy arms use initiative to charge the scouts, and needless to be said, made very short work of them. The Andreanan CO did the only thing he could, and gave them the boot down order to the few remaining troops still standing. The battle was open, and my operation was a success. Concluding this, it was very lucky that Guy couldn't manage to pause a lot of command tests, especially with the shaky start of my force with 2 blunders in a row. I feared to lose at least one of the huge Gundams to enemy fire, the massive trait making them easier to hit while coping with the problems of flushing out the infantry in the building. In the end though, more due to his lack of luck than my excessive luck, the Gundams carried home the battle, and for my pure intimidation factor than cost efficiency, I nominate Sandrock as hero of the battle, as his charges shattered the flank twice and causing the Andreanans to stay put in the buildings and unable to maneuver anywhere, as failing out of the buildings to avoid the charge would leave them open to the volleys of the heavy arms. So yeah, that was it for the first battle that year. I hope you enjoyed this bit of a special thing, and see you on the next Throwback Thursday. Like, subscribe, comment if you like this kind of stuff, and bye bye.